It's good. These people, the workers, they are modern day Luddites. That's what they are. They want to make everyone worse off by restricting their automation, just so they can selfishly, I'm not even being ironic here, just so they can selfishly be paid more. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support the channel, and I'll make sure to reply. There's a strike apparently looming. Or no, I think it already started for the port workers, who are apparently really upset that their jobs might be automated, even though they should be. We should not all suffer. So their jobs aren't automated. If we can ship stuff for cheaper with automation, that benefits everyone, even if these workers lose a little bit, but whatever. From the Rust Belt to the ports, a warning about the extortive union demands. Not all labor unions are pro-worker, with 36 ports striking today. The International Longshore Association is threatening other jobs. I will cripple you, and you'll have no idea what that means. In general, labor unions are meant to be a force for good, providing a much-needed voice and representation for workers in negotiations with their employers. However, challenges arise when bargaining demands become too unreasonable or unfair. Perhaps the demand from the labor union are too high, or the company's offer is unreasonably low. Labor unions can turn into villains, where then demands become excessive and extortive. This is why the International Longshore Association, the only labor union controlling all ports across the entire East Coast, is facing a public backlash for demanding a total ban on the automation of cranes, gates, and container movements that are used in the loading of freight at 36 U.S. ports. This demand is in addition to other requests for compensations, for example, significantly higher wages and benefit packages. As many have pointed out, other companies have already agreed to offer reasonably higher compensation packages to port workers, increasing wages by nearly 50%, tripling employee contributions to employee retirement plans, strengthening healthcare options, and even retaining the current language around automation and semi-automation. However, in order to force companies to meet their unreasonable demands on the use of technology and even higher compensation packages, the ILA is threatening the country by locking down 36 ports on the East Coast, with more than 45,000 workers on strike starting today. Economists have already discussed the severe negative consequences this will have on supply chains, prices, and even jobs for Americans in other sectors. But perhaps the best illustration of how American workers will be worse off during these port strikes comes from the ILA union president.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel is not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now, because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me.
This interview highlights the trade-offs that any pro-worker agenda must grapple with, as I've discussed in a previous post. When the ILA threatens to cripple other jobs in the economy, it's illustrating that not all labor unions are synonymous with being pro-worker. Indeed, the ILA is okay with other workers in America losing their jobs in order to pay for the excessive demands of this select group of workers. This is hardly an inspiring message to join the American labor movement. Of course, companies are right to reject excessive demands, especially on a total ban of automation. Making U.S. ports worse off is not a winning strategy for workers, and especially not for U.S. port workers. If there is a total ban on automation, cargoes will be redirected to more efficient and lower cost ports as East Coast ports become less efficient and more costly compared to the ports that welcome technological advancements. Over time, the 36 East Coast ports that are stuck in the Stone Age will see less business, lower employment growth, more layoffs, and some may even close down completely. What's that, Malibu County? Hey, what do you think of taxing companies a certain percentage of the total sales, say 2%? I don't think we should be taxing companies on sale. We should be taxing consumers on sales, not companies on sales. We should just do a cash flow tax for corporations. Blocking technological advancement is not only bad for the East Coast Stone Age port workers, but it's also bad for the American competitive edge. Asian and Middle Eastern ports, which do not welcome technology, will come to grow faster in the long run compared to the U.S. ports. For those who sympathize with MAGA goals, banning technological advancements on U.S. ports is a great America last strategy. For those who may seem unconvinced by this future reality, look no further than a case study of the Rust Belt's economic deterioration in the second half of the 20th century. A warning to port workers: how excessive labor union demands ruined the Rust Belt. A new study published in the journal Political Economy showed that excessive demands from strong unions, which led to a high frequency of strikes in the Rust Belt region between 1950 and 2020, are one of the main reasons for the decline in manufacturing employment in the Rust Belt during that time period. The Rust Belt manufacturing industries had by far the highest rate of work stoppages from strikes in the United States, according to CPS data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Between the years 1973 and 1980, 48.1% of workers were union members in Rust Belt manufacturing, compared to 28.4% among manufacturing workers in the rest of the country. As economists note, The Economist notes, while unionization rates in manufacturing were around twice as high in the Rust Belt as outside, rates of work stoppages were about 7 times as high in the Rust Belt. In other words, labor relations were particularly fraught among unions concentrated in the Rust Belt. During this time, the compensation package demands were also higher than usual as compared to demands in other regions. So what happened? Excessive union demands, strikes, and work stoppages led to lower average rates of investment and productivity growth by Rust Belt firms relative to those in the rest of the country. Over time, employment moved from the Rust Belt to the rest of the country. This is common sense. Rust Belt firms faced increasing labor costs and reduced productivity, forcing many to either downsize or relocate to regions with less union influence and lower labor cost. Overall, these labor union conflicts accounted for 55% of the decline in the Rust Belt share of U.S. manufacturing employment, leading to its economic deterioration throughout the second half of the 20th century. Many might sensibly ask, but what about the impact of China and globalization on the Rust Belt? The study accounted for this as well, finding that trade had a secondary negative effect on the Rust Belt, as they write, quote, rising imports have had virtually no employment effect until the mid-1970s, and the losses are concentrated in the 1980s and 1990s. This suggests that the international forces at best play a supporting role in the Rust Belt's decline in the latter part of the time period, and likely had little to do with the large secular decline in the region's employment share that occurred in the first 3 decades after the end of World War II. The Rust Belt case study is a perfect example of when unions go too far, leading to worse worker outcomes in the long run. Other studies show that unions which moderate demands to avoid pushing firms out of business or reducing employment are more likely to persist over time. This moderation creates balance between gains for workers and ensuring the firm's survival, benefiting both parties in the long run. Port automation. Yes, some port jobs will be lost, but fear not. Economists agree that real wage growth is feasible when there are technological developments that make workers more productive, like how our generation experienced the computerization of white-collar jobs, or when the construction industry started using construction vehicles and other machines. These developments are welcome because they enhance the skills of workers, making them more productive and allowing them to increase their output for any given hour. Take a look at this video how automation in Chinese ports have made port workers more productive, transforming the nature of their tasks from physically opening and closing gates to sitting behind a computer screen to direct port activity. Yeah, I watched this video. It's wild. Oops. It's literally all remotely operated. The concern that automation might mean certain types of jobs will be lost is real. What this typically means is that some or many of the port workers will go into completely different types of roles in the same industry, e.g. the Chinese case where they're behind a computer screen, or they will enter into other expanding industries where the skill sets are in demand. Cinema, true. It's not uncommon for the entire types of tasks or roles to be lost. What many neglect to understand is that technological advancements will either expand the same industries and or create entirely new jobs that never existed before. For example, there are no more workers in the video tape industry today, but there are thousands in the streaming industry. Economists call this creative destruction. Old jobs are destroyed, new jobs are created. Well outdated, I've always liked this piece on how to understand job destruction and job creation from a historical perspective. Here's a job destruction list of some jobs that have been significantly reduced or completely eliminated since the start of the 20th century. Railroad employees, carriage and harness makers, telegraph operators, boiler makers, milliners, cobblers, blacksmiths, and watchmakers. And here's a job creation list showing the expansion and creation of new jobs since the 20th century. At the time of this report, the authors used jobs in 2002. Notice, for example, that there were 0 electricians, auto mechanics, and airplane pilots and mechanics. Today, there are hundreds of thousands each of them. Yeah, makes sense. Professional athletes, computer programmers. Well, some jobs were eliminated. More jobs were created, and the economy grew overall. This is all part of a healthy, dynamic process in our economy. So yes, some part-time jobs in the future may be reduced, but it's not bad for workers in the long run. The economy expands with technological advancements, enabling the creation of new jobs and the process. True. And if like shipping gets cheaper, and everything gets cheaper, consumers have more money. It allows at least if people aren't laid off or whatever, their real wages will probably increase because they're more productive, right? And B, if prices are lowered, because things get cheaper, ports are able to operate more efficiently, consumers have more money to spend in other parts of the economy, and it creates jobs in other sectors. It's good. These people, the workers, they are modern day Luddites. That's what they are. They want to make everyone worse off by restricting their automation, just so they can selfishly, I'm not even being ironic here, just so they can selfishly be paid more and not have their jobs replaced. And like the article even said, it's worse for them in the long run because their ports are just going to go out of business. If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.